Well, hello and welcome to our very, very special 2022 World Cup live stream where we're going to be chatting through all our betting predictions for the upcoming World Cup. Very excited, loads to get stuck into. The event's finally here. We're going to park the politics, it's happening. So we're going to get stuck into the event and try and give you our best views, tips, and opinions on the game. There will be some strong disagreement. Want to hear from you guys as well. If you're watching live, want to tweet in any questions or comments, please do so. If you're watching this on replay, add your comments on YouTube below. We'd love to know who you fancy for the World Cup. Joining me as ever, and do hit subscribe as well. We'd love to have you guys involved more often. Each week we talk about all the relevant betting events that are on, but this is a World Cup special. Joining me, kicking us off, is Sam Farley. Sam, you're heading over to Qatar on a scale of 1 to 10. How excited are you right now?
Yeah, pretty excited now. Just to get it over and done with. Get on that flight, land, plenty of time, have a couple of £15 beers, and just enjoy myself.
£15 beers always will taste sweeter, I'm sure, when you're going to the games. Jake, you, like myself, will be a bit of an armchair fan for this tournament. Now the Premier League has finally stopped. Are you kind of in full, right, let's get into it now?
I think so, just about, yeah. I'm not going to lie, I have struggled to fully get into it this season. With a World Cup coming over the winter period, it's tough to get into, but I think now, like you say, the season's over. I'm just about hyping myself up for it. Yeah,
I think in fairness, wherever this World Cup was being held, you put a World Cup slap bang in the middle of the season. It doesn't have that 3-week kind of lead time with the friendlies and the build up, and you've got to think half of us have got teams that are playing for nothing from about April onwards. So we kind of start looking at it early, don't we, and getting involved.
Yeah.
But before we get into the nuts and bolts of it, Sam, I know you've got a bit of a message and a thought that you wanted to just share with the audience.
Yes, I do, Bos. Look, we always like to preach responsible gambling here. This is all about gambling, chucking the fivers on, tenors on, whatever you want, but it's all about just having fun, doing it responsibly. Don't go mad. Please don't put yourself in a position where you're betting more than you can afford to lose. So just want to highlight that. We have a month of football here, 64 games. Don't go absolutely crazy in the first couple of days. And if you're getting to a point where after 3-4 days, it's not fun, you are losing money hand over fist, just take a step back, cool off, and don't bother continuing. This is all, just be responsible. Don't get yourself into any trouble. The World Cup is, as much as we don't like to admit it, it is all about having fun. It is a festival of fun, a festival of football. So please just be responsible and let's get on with the show.
Yeah, I think you've summed that up pretty perfectly, Farley. So yeah, let's kick off the whole preview itself, and we'll kick off with the main market for World Cup betting. So it's the World Cup winner. Now, thankfully, we've all gone for 3 different teams. Bos, you're the outsider in terms of betting odds for your pick, so I'll let you tell us who you're backing to win the World Cup.
Yeah, I'm kind of looking at the prices scrolling across the bottom of the screen. Obviously, it's really easy to be drawn to something or a team towards the front of the betting, but I'm trying to look for a bit of a price that's going to give me a run for my money. And I think the Netherlands at 14-1 of that second tier of teams, once you get out of, Brazil, Argentina, France, Spain, I think that's a cracking price. Let's start off with their kind of route, if you like. They're going to be in a group which, feasibly, if you could pick a group for England to be in other than the one they're in now, I think on paper, you'd be fairly confident the Netherlands are going to top that. And the other 3 teams in there will be playing for the second place spot. I think Qatar will be surprisingly competitive in there, and that will probably upset a few. But I'm not sure Ecuador and Senegal are going to pose huge problems to a side that I think have started to build, play some nice football, obviously have that pedigree of the Dutch have always been a team that people seem to expect plenty from, and maybe they've flattered to deceive. But I guess from my point of view, if they top the group, they'll play the second place of our group, which is one of, hopefully, Iran, Wales, or USA. You'd be fairly confident if there was a game put on between the Netherlands and any of those sides that they're going to get to the quarters. So suddenly you're 14-1 shots into the quarterfinals. Yes, they're going to have to end up playing someone very good at that point, but everyone will at some stage. You don't get the easy rides. People might point at England's Euros run, but you don't, or England's World Cup runs, I should say, you don't often get an easy ride. And I just think at the prices, they're a team that I think will significantly shorten in the tournament. So that's why I thought at a double figure price, I'd have a stab at the Netherlands. A good squad on paper. I don't necessarily think they've got, have they got enough game changers? You could argue potentially not, but I think they'll score goals. And I think once they start scoring, that's when you'll see some confident play with them. And I can really see them emerging as putting themselves back on the map, shall we say.
Just to play devil's advocate a little bit, Farley, if England were to finish second in the group and it was England versus the Netherlands, would you think that the Netherlands would beat England?
No. I think the Netherlands are, and I don't want to start a disagreement quite this early in the show. I look at that squad. They've got a couple of decent young defenders. Like when Nathan Ake's going to be playing as good as he is, he's not that good. Virgil van Dijk, brilliant. Frankie de Jong, sensational. After that, it gets a bit ropey. The goalkeeping situation, there's nobody there I think is particularly good. I don't think they're that good. And one thing you said that I do think is absolutely spot on. They have a very good group, and they will more than likely have a good last 16 tie. So you are going to see their price shorten. I think you are spot on with that. So I think if you're looking for a value play, I do understand where you're coming from. But when it gets down to the business end, could I see them beating one good team in a bit of a fluke? Yes. Could I see them winning 3 games in a row? I can't. And I know Van Gaal was good with them in the World Cup in 2010, but I don't think he's. I don't know. I don't think they've got much of a chance. To be honest.
What about the fact they beat Belgium twice in their Nations League group, 4-1 and 1-0? Yeah.
I think the Nations League, which is something I'll get into when I talk about my team in a little bit. I think you just got to forget these results. This whole timeline with the pandemic and then this World Cup just pushing so many games together in a short space of time. I think you have to almost just forget them, to be absolutely honest with you.
Okay, well, I mean, it sounds like you want to forget results, Farley, when it suits you. But yes, we'll go to your pick for the World Cup, because I don't know if it's you being stupid, patriotic, or you genuinely think this is a bet. Because tell us who you're backing to win the World Cup, Farley.
Well, the price, England. I'm back in England. The price when I wrote this morning was 19-2. One bookmaker has now put them to 10-1. Ooh. Double-digit odds. Absolutely, yes, please. And I tell you for why. This is a manager who everybody loves to slate him, but ultimately he's got a team that nobody thought would do well to the semis in 18. Nobody thought they'd do well and at the Euros go on to win it, especially after the first few games. They do well. He has been building for this time, and so much of the talk we hear, I think, is from people who don't understand football. To be honest with you, we hear all this stuff like, "Oh, take the handbrake off, go attacking." The best way to win these tournaments is to play fairly defensively. I think be defensive first, especially when, let's be honest, you look at our squad, that is the weak point. I think some people look at our squad, they've been playing too much FIFA and they think, oh, we've got great attacking players, let's go gung-ho, let's outscore everyone. Football doesn't work like that. If it did, you'd see it all the time. This is a squad that fundamentally is flawed because defensively they're not brilliant in terms of personnel. Protect that team with a back five. Just keep defensively sound. And all these Nations League games, some of them, I think the ones in June, absolute write-off, because ultimately the players, they just didn't look bothered. And I think that's kind of concern. But he keeps playing, like we've not played, a back four for over half a year, maybe since March. I think it might be the last time we played a back four. And people were saying, play the back four. But this isn't a World Cup where you've got 3 weeks after the end of the season to get prepared, play 2 systems. You don't have that time. You've got, I think England are landing there tomorrow. So we're recording this on a Monday, obviously, so Tuesday. A couple of days, really, to get into them. You're going to have one system. You're going to stick with that the whole time. We can play 5 at the back and get through the groups. Then we're going to play if you assume we win it, and I think we will, we'll play like a fairly easy team in the last 16, and then you're onto these hard teams, and you have to play a back five against them. There's no question about it with our frailties. And I think we're being really devalued. I think people are look, I'm not going to tell you watching the Southgate football is always the most fun. It isn't. But this is a team who know what it's like to win. They're very experienced at club level. They have game changers off the bench, which I think that's something I'd argue the Netherlands don't have. I just think we're a very good team. I think we're almost talking ourselves down a little bit. But that's me. That's my rant over.
Right, three things, Jake. Jake, you got to let me interject here. I've got to come back at him. He slagged my Holland out. I'm going to take my England supporters hat off here because I actually am fairly pro Southgate. I do think, but for penalties, he'd have done something no other manager's done for 60 odd years. So, I think we've got the right man in charge. I just don't look at that England team, and for me, it's the disconnect at the back. I have genuine concerns that we don't seem to be. Harry Maguire will either have the tournament of his life, or I think it's going to be hit or miss. There's no middle ground with him. He's not going to play moderately okay and get away with it. He knows the pressure's on him, and I think at United that pressure's told on him, and I'd be slightly concerned that he's going to have to carry the can a little bit. Eric Dyer, for me, is a year or two too old. If he ends up starting for England, I'd be a bit concerned. I also have some fear about Harry Kane. I'm not sure what to expect from Harry. Hopefully, he's been feigning this tiredness that has been reported at Spurs, but I don't know. This is it for him. This is his big moment to shine. And I know people say, well, he won the Golden Boot going back and all that, but doesn't count for much, does it? So he's got to carry the can. I don't know where England's strengths definitely lies. There is their ability to have these exciting, creative players. Phil Foden, for me, could be huge for England. Raheem Sterling's form coming to this really worries me. Southgate needs to get him back around because I know he's been put in silly positions at Chelsea and they've been under their own woes. But I worry we've not got – how many players, Sam, are coming into this World Cup, do you think, at the peak of their powers? Kieran Trippier, I'd probably say at the moment, is playing exceptionally well for his club side. Kane has been scoring goals, but looks knackered.
Bellingham, Foden.
Bellingham, Foden. Foden can't even get in the team at City at the moment. When was the last time Pep started him?
Saturday.
Okay. Before that, sorry.
He starts most of the big games, I'd say, Foden. I think, look, one thing I'll say about form is, remember going into the Euros, the first couple of games, England were a bit boring. The Scotland game was dire. We all know it. Everybody was like, oh, this is rubbish. You can't win a tournament like this. You can't get very far. We'll be knocked out next group game. You build on these things. Feel like being in form come the first game of the tournament, it doesn't really matter in truth. The question is, will they be in form come the first knockout game? Because I think that's when these things really matter.
If you can get away with it, Sam. And I don't know I don't know if we have to get a result against Wales. I honestly, that's going to be a pressure moment, and I don't think we will. But I think we're all optimists when it comes to England, or we're all pessimists. There's no middle ground. The truth is, the middle ground. England have an exceptionally talented squad. However, I think you've got to think these are players like Raheem Sterling has dragged England through games in the past, and he has looked moderate this year. He's not been a patch on the Sterling we saw for City. Is that right, Jake? Would you think that's fair?
It's true, yeah, but he's playing for a much worse side than he was at City, I guess.
But I'd say this, there were City fans who weren't very keen on him for like the last 2-3 years, and he was still doing it for England. So sometimes it's about players turning up for the team because there's something about that team, whether it's the manager, whether it's the squad, whatever, they kind of get this extra element. But look, I think we've spoken quite a bit about two teams now. Jake, tell us who you're backing, and pray to God this doesn't come true.
Lads, it is a boring bet, but I'm backing Argentina 11-2. Now, listen, it's more or less all around Lionel Messi. I just think Messi's going to have a tournament which is unreal. I think this has just got Messi written all over this tournament. He's been in form for PSG. When is Messi out of form, though? Let's be honest. When's he going to go into a tournament where he is out of form? But he seems to have a little bit of a swagger about him, which was lacking in the last 18 months or so. In the past 3 months, he actually seems like the old Messi. And I know we've had a few conversations and tweets in. We had a tweeting around Lautaro Martinez up front. He may be the firepower that Argentina need there. But 11-2, I just think it's a great price. I'm not backing Brazil at the price. Some of the favourites I just don't like. Everything just seems built around it being Messi's World Cup. I know there was the stat around the final, maybe his 1000th game. I'm not sure if that's going to come to fruition.
They'll make sure that comes true. They'll bend that statistic, won't they, to make sure that's the case. Jake, can I ask a question on your view on Argentina, though?
Of course,
if Messi doesn't turn up, have they got enough behind him that will pick up the pieces to at least get them and your bet into the latter stages, do you think?
It's an interesting question. And it's one of those where it's just ifs and buts and maybes, isn't it, Baz? I know that it's easy for me to give a political answer now and say, who knows? But genuinely, who knows? I know that without being biased, Julian Alvarez has been great for us this season, and he's been called up to the squad. He's going to come in and he will feature for Argentina. Again, Martinez. There's players in that squad where they do still create stuff. Messi, let's be honest, Messi hasn't been prolific at the World Cup. There's been World Cups where he's scored 1-2 goals. I know that he got the Golden Ball like 2 World Cups ago, which he may feature in a Golden Ball bet later down the line in this show because it's an Adidas-sponsored award that they give out usually. Yeah, I mean, I know it's a boring pick, World Cup winner Argentina, but 11-2, I just think it's a price that I like the look of, definitely. Okay,
well, that covers our 3 selections for the most part from the front of the market. We were challenged by our editor to find 3 teams. They had to be bigger than 20-1 in order to feature in our World Cup dark horses. Can't get away with saying Germany dark horses at 10-1. So with that in mind, Jake, you have just been chatting about someone right at the front of the market. You took this concept and you went, you know what? Screw you guys. Bigger than 20-1. I'm going to go for Senegal at 125-1. This is with El Hadji playing for them. Like, explain how they're going to get anywhere near a final.
First of all, this should be in front of this little conversation now. Should be Farley's responsible gambling chat because, listen, I'd have like 50p on this bet. I was chosen to pick a dark horse. I did like the look of your 2 shouts. I didn't want to back your 2 shouts. Senegal, it's just in terms of looking at the group. I think that they will go through in that group with the Netherlands. I think there's a chance that they could top that group, actually. I know that you've picked Netherlands to win.
Get out.
I think there's a chance they can top that group. I think they'll play well against the 2 other sides in there. I think they'll get an easy win against Qatar. Ecuador, they should win that too. And that Netherlands game, I think it will be a shootout to win the group. 125-1 is a big price. I mean, if they do win the group, then they'll have an easy tie in the next one if they come second. You say it was did face England, is that right?
Yeah. So
they face England, knock England out easily because England are rubbish. I like the team again. Koulibaly, Edouard Mendy. I want to say Sadio Mane, but obviously we don't know whether or not he will play. I know that there's injury concerns around him. It looks like it's going to be the second or third game where he does feature, but then they've got like Ismail Assar, players like that. And again, they are the African Cup of Nations winners, lads. I know you laugh at 125-1 and laugh at me picking them, but they're champions of Africa for a reason. They've beat Mo Salah's Egypt in that final. I know it was on pens, but it's just a massive price. And to be honest with you, lads, looking at your 2 selections, they're absolutely rubbish. I'm not having any of them to.
To be fair, mate, they beat Mo Salah's Egypt. They must be about to win the World Cup. Great call.
Exactly.
Ridiculous.
But Farley, yours looks like a bit of a hipster tip for me.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know how he can be picking Denmark and saying they're a dark horse. No,
he's just drinking his independent craft ale IPA there. He's just there with his skateboard.
It's actually, I don't want to feed into the stereotype. It's actually a blueberry and ginger kombucha.
So come on then, reveal what everyone already has guessed at home who your dark horse is going to be.
It's Denmark. And look, I'm probably being a bit cheeky here because outside of the 20-1, they are the next kind of off the lot there in terms of odds, but they were really good at the Euros, despite, and I know they were kind of galvanized by the Christian Eriksen thing, but I think the one thing that really impresses me about Denmark is when you talk about world-class talent, they don't really have much, if any, but they just seem to have almost like a club team mentality. And I think that is something that really goes well in these tournaments, as we saw in the Euros. I think they potentially got a group that I would feel quite confident in them going out in. I think France, we'll talk about this in a bit. I'm not super high on France this year. If Denmark win that group, and I think they will, they're going to play Saudi Arabia, Mexico, or Poland most likely. I think they win that. And then you're into these, it's going to be a bit harder. But I just look at that team and I just think, could they cause people problems? Absolutely. And for 33-1, I think it's worth a couple of pounds, price of a beer, nothing more than that. But yeah, good team in my view.
Okay, well that's two half decent shouts at either end of the spectrum, and I've sat through the middle here, and I've got a 50-1 shout with Uruguay, who I think on paper actually their group, which is Group H, I would say, lads, is actually the hardest one to call. You've got Portugal, Uruguay, and South Korea in there. This is interesting, isn't it? I think Ghana seem to be a team that people don't seem to have much interest in. South Korea, it's all about Son in terms of his injury recovery. It's great to see that he'll be there, but what kind of condition he'll be in, I'm not sure. And Portugal, for me, are Portugal going to suffer from the Cristiano Ronaldo circus? Because as we record this, we've got another part with Piers Morgan to go out. A lot of the talk around Cristiano Ronaldo is going to be, he's looking for a transfer. Is Cristiano Ronaldo going to be that focused on the World Cup? Now, he's a consummate professional in how he treats his physique, but the talk around him, it just feels it's a real misstep. We could talk for hours about whether he was right or wrong to do what he's done. I think it was a real PR misstep, and I think it's going to give Portugal a bit of a headache. I'll tip them as my team that don't actually go through the groups, but we'll talk about that later. Let's focus on Uruguay. I think they are just a really solid team. I think there's enough talent in there. There's certainly goals in this side when you look at who they've got in their lineup. I don't think Luis Suarez is going to be able to be the Luis Suarez that he was a few years ago, but Darwin Núñez, we'll talk about him later on because I know one of you guys are keen on him as an outsider for the Golden Boot. There's definitely goals to be had, and that's what you're going to need in this World Cup. You're going to need to score, you're going to need to get out the group. And once they're out the group, would you want, for example, obviously depending on the mapping, I really wouldn't fancy England having to play a Uruguay proper shithouse team that really can get dirty and win. No?
England beat Uruguay 5-0, mate. England will boss Uruguay.
We'll beat them.
We'll beat Uruguay easily.
You're drinking whatever weird Kool-Aid he's had up there. But I just genuinely think that a 50-1 is a bit of an insult. Don't forget, this is a Uruguay side that when they play effectively the tournaments at home, they have to play the Argentinas, the Brazils on a regular basis. The quality of opponent that they face, you could argue, is stronger than anything that those teams in that group face. So for me, it's a bet to trade, probably. You wanted something at a price. I'll go with Uruguay at 50-1.
Nice.
Can't really argue with that. Now, look, we talked about England, but I challenge the guys to come up with one bet for England that you really like. It could be a specific game. It could be a tournament-long thing, whatever the hell you want. So, Bos, I can see what you've written down here. I cannot understand for the life of me what you've actually typed. So why don't you start, and then Jake, you can round off.
I was clearly getting a bit carried away. England to concede over 4.5 goals for the tournament is 6-5. Now, if you think like me,
considering we will play 7 games in the tournament, good chance.
I mean, I really like this bet. If you think England are going to go all the way, we're not winning this without conceding a few goals along the way. Let's be honest. I know our group, someone said to me, I can't see anyone scoring against us. I think we are so underestimating that teams will be, especially when you get to those last 2 games. The Welsh against us could need a result. They're not going to sit back and play for 0-0s, lads. It's not what's going to happen here. Where's the weakest part of England's team? You tell me that, Sam, as an England fan.
Well, it's defence, obviously.
Right. So if we're going to win the World Cup, we're going to concede a few goals. So over evens at 4.5 goals. Listen. If I'm proven wrong and England win the World Cup, I still think it lands. So I'm fairly comfortable with that. It's a bit of a bet for the tournament. Like I say, it's 6-5. It's not going to make you rich, but it's something for interest.
I like it though. I do like it though. And the last World Cup, didn't we concede to Tunisia in the first game? I swear we just about scraped a 2-1 win against them. Yeah. So maybe even Iran can get a goal against us. I wouldn't be surprised.
Hey, this is the danger. You're laughing at Iran, and let's be honest. Who out of us has read anything beyond a couple of articles about Iran and can actually tell you much about them? I can't. But I tell you what, when you flick through their record, they could nick a point against England. I'm not even joking. I have my concerns, but Sam, you definitely don't looking at your bet.
No, look, and I do think Iran are probably going to be a little bit better than everyone's giving them credit for. Like, we're going to steamroll them 5-0. Doesn't really work like that in World Cups very often, unless you have Panama, admittedly. But I think they are an absolute step beyond anything that Iran will throw at us. But yeah, my one, look, it's a simple one. 10 quid will return you £22. It's just a simple double. England to win the first 2 games, Iran and USA. Very simple. I'll leave it at that. Jake, and I really like what you've gone for here.
Yeah, mine's short, but it's not as short as I thought it'd be. It's Foden to start against Iran, and I feel like the last few weeks, it seems like he's been rested a little bit, to be honest. I don't think he's fully come out of Pep's plans because he was in banging form when he did get dropped for us for a couple of games, but he started on Saturday. He scored against Brentford on Saturday too, so I think that he's one of the players. I know, Bos, you did say that there's not many that are in form. I think Foden, you can just about argue that he has been one of the form players that's English so far this season. I don't think there's many to choose from. Obviously, Saka, players like that. It will be Foden or Saka. It'll be one of them two to start, I think, because I'm guessing that Kane and Sterling are dead certs for it. I know they're like 1-12 and 1-20, both of them too. The other thing I've mentioned too is header bets. Now, England score from set pieces. We've seen that we've scored from set pieces at tournaments before, and this World Cup screams that Harry Maguire is going to get a header goal at some point. I think all the backlash against him, and I've had a little bet on it's a £5 bet. It may be stupid. Harry Maguire and Virgil van Dijk both to score a header in the tournament, 16-1. I like it. I think that there's a great chance. I think, again, both sides are good from set pieces. England are good from set pieces. The last World Cup, the amount of money I made from header bets on England players is unreal. Requested, mate, the Panama game.
There's no Panamas here, Jake.
I ran out of Panama of this.
No,
England will 6-0 Iran first. No, I'm kidding. But I just think that a header bet, its value, there's going to be certain bookies in the lead up to the games who will do like Harry Maguire shot on target, Harry Maguire header on target boosted to like 6-1, 8-1, stuff like that. And I think that's something to look at too. So, yeah, Foden at 1-2 to start against Iran is my bet for the World Cup for England. I think he will start that first game. So, usually on the podcast, we do banker, bust and draw every week for the Premier League games, see what we like, what we don't like. We're going to do banker and bust for the World Cup now. Now, how it's going to work is the banker will be who gets to the semis at least. And then the bust will be who goes out in the groups. Now, Bos, we'll start with you because I know that Farley's been very patriotic around England's chances. Looking at this, you're not as patriotic, but I like to see you bankers too because you two are against each other here too. So, Bos, let's go with your banker then, first of all, please.
Right. Well, France are going to get to the semis, aren't they? Like, the squad they have on paper is impressive. Big tournament pedigree. Mbappe, the chance to really shine on a big stage, not in some Farmers League or having to wait for a Champions League game. No Messi to get in his way or whatever the issue is that they've got at PSG with him. And it's going to be France that put England out in the quarters, I think, according to my tournament modelling, which is going to be rather painful for Sam. But never mind. I just think the French are a very good side. Like, if you said to me if we could avoid a team to the final, it would either probably be Argentina or France. I'd want England to avoid. I think both of them have real talent to cause it. I actually quite fancy us to take a Brazil out. I really wouldn't be fearful of playing Brazil, weirdly, which is nuts. But I honestly think they wouldn't like us.
Clip that soundbite now.
Yeah,
I fancy us taking Brazil out. Yes.
Would you really fear Brazil over France though? Imagine you've got Richarlison running at England defenders or Mbappe. Who scares you more?
I think that question is who scares you more, Mbappe or Neymar? I think that's basically what
maybe I've been a little bit naughty and not going for the more obvious candidate there. But I'd say still Mbappe. I think Maguire could actually just break Neymar in two in one challenge, whereas I think Mbappe will leave him on his arse and score two past him.
I think you talk about Mbappe quickly. I think Mbappe could be the reason why France don't get that far. I think that Mbappe.
Sorry,
he's had
world-class players going to hinder their progress.
He's had a lot of behind-the-scenes issues leading up to the World Cup around image rights. He's basically thrown his toys out the pram a little bit. And let's be honest, France they've had issues in the past at World Cups where there's been players infighting and stuff like that.
It's going to happen.
The same could happen again. I haven't gone for them as my bust. I can see Farley has gone for them as your bust. I think that should probably be a good segue. I think you should just give us your bust now, Farley. Why have you gone for France as your bust?
So a couple of reasons. One, and I think this is the main one.
Yeah.
You look at this whole Pogba situation. These rumors of witchcraft on the France team. There quite clearly are issues there behind the scenes. And look, I know Pogba isn't going, but that brings me on to the other point. Let's have a look at their midfielders, shall we? You got Tchouaméni, absolutely incredible. Camavinga, very good. He wouldn't get in England's two, but very good. Then you have Adrien Rabiot. Sorry. Then you have Youssouf Fofana. No thanks. Then you have, and I can't even believe this guy's going to the World Cup, Guendouzi, formerly of Arsenal.
He's good for Marseille, hasn't he?
He probably won't start though, Farley.
No, but like the depth. And then you've got Jordan Veretout, who, if you remember, was a failure at Aston Villa. So you're talking about depth. England have better depth than France, and that's not an opinion. That's a straight up fact. They got better defenders. We're better other than that. Like keeper, Hugo Lloris gets injured. Who are you going to bring on? Areola, who can't get a game for West Ham, or you're going to have the corpse of Steve Mandanda turning up.
Hey, ex-Crystal Palace legend, do not disrespect.
I'm sorry. I think France are in for a rude awakening. They're in trouble for me. They'll be
fine. They've got the chance to get through the group.
Denmark will win that group.
Right. Okay.
Right. Okay.
Charity bet. 10 quid to a charity of your choice if they do not go through.
Yeah. All right. We'll make sure.
Buzz, who's your bust for the World Cup? Who's going to be out of the groups? This is a mental bust. This isn't a mental bust. So effectively, I needed a big name team that's going to struggle to get out the group, right? That's the idea of this. So we don't need to whiz through them because everyone probably knows what they are. But which group is the hardest group? Group H, isn't it, for Portugal? They face Ghana, Uruguay, and South Korea. To me, I think that's the hardest group on paper.
Spain, Costa Rica, Germany, Japan. You got two heavyweights in there.
But they'll just play themselves through. I wouldn't be concerned about that. For me, it's more that if you are any of those three teams against Portugal, guess what? You think you've got a chance of going through. I'm sorry, Costa Rica aren't going to trouble any of those teams in Group E, let's be honest. Japan, technically, I've enjoyed watching them a few times. I've literally seen probably 2 of their games in the last 2 years, but I have enjoyed seeing the clips of them. Technically, they're a good side. But for me, Ghana will fancy their chances against them. Uruguay will fancy their chances against them. And I also think that group represents proper different styles and approaches of football. It is a true World Cup group. I love it. I'll be watching, of all the outside of England, that's the group I'll be watching every single game from. And I am convinced that Portugal, with the Ronaldo circus, are going to have a bit of a bad time of things.
Farley, before I ask for your banker, I'll go through mine because my bust is against yours. So Argentina, I've gone for my banker. Obviously, I've gone for them to win the World Cup. So it's pretty straightforward. My bust is Spain. Now, you just mentioned that group, Germany, Spain. I've just looked at this Spain squad. I mean, I looked at it earlier. There is some stinkers in that squad. I know that Farley, I know for a fact you're going to be like, oh, they've got Gavi, they've got Pedri. Oh, it's Xavi and Iniesta, it's Regens. There's some stinkers in that. Busquets is still going. He's about 45.
He's still one of the best players in the world.
No, he's not.
He is.
A much better CDM will be playing in front of him, Rodri. Ferran Torres, stinky. I mean, obviously, they have got decent centre mids, Llorente, Koke. There's just Eric Garcia. If he starts at centre back, it's crazy.
But he's not going to start. It's going to be Pau Torres and Laporte, and that's a good name.
Azpilicueta's in the squad still. What's this?
Why isn't David De Gea there, by the way?
Why exactly?
Enrique doesn't like him. He never really has.
Yeah.
But Unai Simon, I think, is decent. You got Rea, Sanchez, both good keepers.
I think they're going to struggle, and you obviously think different. You've got them getting to the semi-finals of the World Cup, Farley.
On it easily,
yeah.
So I look at that group. I think Germany are. I was tempted to put Germany as a bust. I don't think they're particularly good, and I think they're in that sort of awkward stage. I think next World Cup you're probably going to be looking at a very, very good team, but it's probably a little bit too soon for them. And I look at that group. Japan, always technically good. We know that. It's pretty much a stereotype, to be honest. But Costa Rica, they should go through. Spain, with the talent they have, particularly in midfield and just on the ball, they will just find a way to dominate possession and strangle teams. And let's not forget, at the Euros, they were really, really unlucky not to beat Italy in that semi. And I'd say they were probably the form team in the knockout stages. I think the big question mark over Spain, as it was then, is who is going to score the goals. And realistically, they're probably going to need it to be Morata, Ferran Torres will be up front, maybe Nico Williams off the bench or Ansu Fati. I don't know, one of those guys. But that's the only reason I'm not tipping them to win the whole thing. But I think they'll definitely get to the semis. I think they're such a talented team. If we played them, that is the sort of team. They're by far the team I don't want to play the most. They scare the life out of me as an England fan.
One thing we haven't touched on is obviously it's a warm weather climate.
Yeah.
Do we think the style of football Spain will play? I take it's still quite possession based. Would probably be a massive advantage in what will be warm temperatures. They're not going to be cold.
I think they are really primed to have a good run. And like I said, they scare me. If you have to go against a team that's going to have 65% possession in that heat, in that humidity, I know you got 5 subs now, which does help a lot, but it's going to be really tough going. So for me, they're a lock to get to the semis.
Okay.
It's a big shout. It's a massive, massive
I mean,
shout.
that is interesting that you two are directly opposed. Obviously, myself and you. Sam, you're basically fighting us on everything tonight. You're very aggressive in your assessment, but I like it. Listen, this is what the joy of the World Cup's about. Right. Now, the next
Can I just say one thing quickly, Boz? What does that tell you about this World Cup? Like, this genuinely feels like maybe the most open World Cup in a while. There's nobody that, Argentina, I think Brazil technically are the favourites, but I'd say most people would probably lean towards Argentina. But there really are, there's probably about 7 or 8 teams I think realistically have a bloody good chance. So really open World Cup, I think.
Yeah, be interesting to see if we do get a shock. But one market I know everyone out there loves talking about and betting on is, of course, the Golden Boot. This market is a hallmark World Cup betting heat. I'll whiz you through some of the favourites. Mbappe, Messi, 10-1. Neymar, 12s. Kevin De Bruyne are in there at 14s. Oh, sorry, that's the Golden Ball betting. I thought that was some big prices there. Let's flick that back over. There we go. That's better. Harry Kane, 8-1 Fav. Kylian Mbappe, 9-1. Messi, 12s. Benzema, 12s. Had a great time of things, hasn't he, the last 12 months? Neymar, 12s. Big tournament for him with his Qatari overlords. 16-1, man of the moment, Cristiano Ronaldo. Lukaku, 25s. Memphis Depay, 25-1. Who, if like me, you quite like Holland. Could well be a bet. Jake, I'm going to let you talk about him because you actually put him up first. You've got 2 you like here. One is a former Crystal Palace player. So as a Palace fan, you're mental.
Can I say one thing first, Sam?
Go on.
Very quickly. you'll see on some bookies they have golden boot and top goal scorer, 2 separate markets. So just to clarify, make sure you check this when you're placing your bet. Top goal scorer can be 4 players can finish on, say, 6 goals and they all win. Golden boot specifically is 1 player. If somebody is tied, it goes to whoever then has the most assists as well. If they both have the same amount of assists, it goes to who had the least minutes on the pitch. So you can only have 1 golden boot winner. So remember that with your betting. And one other thing, this market, check your bookmaker. A lot of them will offer places. So if you go for a longer shot that I know a couple of us are going for, it's worth putting it each way because you might get 4 places or 5 places depending on your bookie.
Yeah, that's a really good shout. And dead heat rules will apply in the top scorer tie market, which is worth checking out. But fair point, Sam. Really good shout, actually, there. Right, I can get back to being concerned for Jake's health because he's an ex-Crystal Palace player up at 101, and he's tipped up the player that I like at 28 to 1, which is fine. So, Jake, let's start with the shorter price, which is Memphis Depay.
Memphis Depay, yeah. So we've spoken at length about Holland's chances at the World Cup this year, and it's just all around the actual group that they're in. That Group A, I think they've got 2 games that look easy for me. The Ecuador and Qatar game, I just think that Depay can score. If he gets 3 or 4 out of them games, it's unreal. It's a great return. And then they can push on then and play. Obviously, they've got a tough game against Senegal. I've backed Senegal as my outsiders, but 28 to 1 is just a big price for a Holland team who are strong. Now, my second pick, which is, you could say stupid, you could say laughable, Michy Batshuayi, 150 to 1. Now, the bookie I'm tipping this with, playing 3 places to a third of the odds. I'm going for this because, as we'll talk about later down the line, my golden ball pick and another pick that I've had, Kevin De Bruyne is in the form of his life. I've watched him week in, week out this season, and he is absolutely unreal. He's the best centre midfielder in the world. He's the best midfielder in the world at the minute for me. And he is going to be a man possessed. And I don't think Lukaku is going to be fit enough for it. I know they've taken him. His injuries have been terrible this season, and I just can't see him being fit enough for what is needed. The man who'll come in.
Is Michy definitely the man that will come in?
I've tried to look into it further, and I think he will be the man who comes in. I know it's going to be tough at 150 to 1. He's not going to. People are going to be like, "What is this guy on about? What an absolute!"
Mind you, Jake, I don't think you're completely mad. If you think he's going to come in, surely the natural thing to do if you're Belgium is, if you think you're going to go long into the competition, you won't probably start Lukaku. At best, he'll get 20 minutes after the first game, right? Coming off the bench. So let's say that's why he has the game of his life and gets a brace in game 1. Do you really think he's going to then be able to drop him for Lukaku in game 2? Or do you give Lukaku maybe a little bit longer? He could get, if he gets a fast start, it's not mad, but you're tipping a man that's probably most famous for smashing a football against the side of his face in the international game off the post.
Again, the thing is, it's all about who will play. I mean, Michy Batshuayi has played for Belgium in recent fixtures. He has come in and played for them. Another guy who looks interesting for that team is Trossard. If he does come in and play, he's been great for Brighton this season. I know that will annoy you, Bos.
But as a Palace fan, it does, but you can't take it away from him.
But again, you can't take it away. He may come in. Whoever comes in for Lukaku is going to get chances. De Bruyne, again, I just think he is in the form of his life at the minute, and he's going to create chance after chance. And he is their best player by far. He'll be putting it on a plate for him. So 150 to 1, it's an outside bet, but that's what we like to see, I guess, isn't it?
I think for the places as well, that's a smart bet, to be honest with you.
Yeah, you're digging. You're digging for some value. Right, Sam, I love one of your bets. Not so interested in the other one. Give us your 2 for the golden boot, please.
2, and I think if you are a long-time listener of the At Odds Pod, I think I actually mentioned one of these in like our 2nd or 3rd episode, just maybe at the start of the season, like a week or 2 in. Yeah. Darwin Núñez, 66 to 1, you can get on him outright to be the top goal scorer, or 50 to 1 with a bookmaker that will let you place that he'll be somewhere between 1st and 4th top goal scorer. I think this is phenomenal pricing. He has been proven in the Premier League. The bloke is pure chaos when he plays. It's a mixture of brilliance, beauty with absolute tomfoolery at times. But the guy knows where the back of the net is, and not any different to that. He actually shoots a lot. So I think in a half decent Uruguay team, and look, I don't think they're going to be winning the World Cup, but I do think they're good sides. They can get out of that group. I think 66-1, 50-1 if you get in the places. I think it's such a good bet. I've bet on this, I think 3 or 4 times through the season now. I keep putting on like another little sort of tenner or whatever. Again, don't go crazy. But
gamble responsibly, please. Please gamble responsibly.
This is just, I think one of the things I always say this when we talk about what we look for in a bet. I look for something, not necessarily something that I think is definitely going to come in, but something where I think the price is a lot bigger than the reality. This is one where I look at this. Let's go for the smaller price, 50-1. You play this World Cup 50 times. Is he the top goal scorer once? I'd say yes, definitely. And certainly in enough to be in the top 4. So that's one of mine. And the second one I'm going to go for is a guy who I think when he comes to the Premier League, which I think is probably going to be January, Cody Gakpo of PSV is going to be an absolute star. The kid looks absolutely mustard. He's 80-1 to be top goal scorer. Obviously plays for the Netherlands. He's likely, so I've been looking at their kind of formations over the last couple of games. He either plays kind of up front as the 9 or just behind, can create whatever. He is 80-1, and I don't think he's going to win it outright, but I think in terms of an each way bet, finishing the top 4, you'll get a quarter of the odds, so like 20-1 effectively. Really, really good price. He scored 9 in 14 for PSV, 12 assists as well. I think every World Cup, there's always a couple of guys who kind of break out of nowhere. You had James Rodriguez. I mean, he was well known, but like really kind of became a world star. Not a World Cup, but a Euros. I remember Andrei Arshavin. Everyone just loved him all of a sudden. And I think Cody Gakpo, if there's one player at this tournament that I think is primed to be a guy everyone loves coming in January, I think it's this man. 80-1. I'm all in.
Yeah, I like him.
Wow. I mean, that's a strong recommendation. I'm not going to recap too much and cover old ground because I really like Memphis Depay, and Jake's already talked him up, and you know how much I love the Dutch side. What I will ask you guys, we'll have a bit of fun here. Jake, you can go first here. You can have one player in a little fun head-to-head between the three of us from the front 5 in the betting that are scrolling across the bottom. Which of those at the front of the market would you most want to have a bet on?
Kane, Mbappe, Messi, Benzema, Neymar.
I've got to say Messi, haven't I? I have to say Messi. I think this is his tournament. It's going to be his last World Cup, arguably. So I think, Messi's
right. Messi is gone. Sam, who do you want?
I would have
given
taken...
you've tipped England for the World Cup. You've got to take Harry Kane, haven't you?
I think
that's a good point. I would have taken Messi, but I am going to take. You put me in a corner there. I'm going to have to take Kane, aren't I?
You've got to. But listen, we joke about it, but if you think England are going all the way, he's going to play every minute more or less, unless something happens. He's a good goal scorer. For me, of those that are left, I'm quite happy with Mbappe because I think he's going to be. This is his tournament, and he's definitely going to get a few goals. I know he's probably got a harder group than Harry Kane and obviously Messi, but I still expect him to go deep. So yeah, just thought we'd have a little bit of fun. Do get your comments in. We'd love to hear from you guys. Just tweet them below the preview if you've got any strong fancies. You think we're wrong, you think we're right. Let us know who you like for each of the markets. It's always good fun to try and get your opinions.
Get stuck into the Golden Ball. As always, Golden Ball is basically your best player, your MVP award for the tournament. And Bos, we're going to let you go last here. And if you're listening to this, you're thinking, should I turn off? You do not want to turn off because you're going to have a coronary. But I'm going to go first because I think I've gone for somebody pretty boring here. Messi. If Argentina win the World Cup, what are the odds on that? Like 5-1, something like that. 11-2. If Argentina win the World Cup, he's winning the Golden Ball. Like that's that's just what's going to happen. And they're not going to win the World Cup if he's injured. So for me, if you're thinking I better bet Messi, I better bet Argentina to win the World Cup, don't bother. Bet Messi to win this instead. But if I'm looking for an outsider, and you talked about him earlier, Jake, you said it'd be somebody I'd talk about. Pedri. Pedri is incredible. This guy's, when Spain play, he's just going to dictate the tempo. He's going to be the Iniesta, the Xavi, just metronome, balls everywhere, dominating the play. For me, the best young midfielder in the world, not named Jude Bellingham. Absolutely incredible player, 66-1. I really like him. Jake, well, you kind of touched on this earlier, but let's go through it.
Well, first of all, it's interesting. Pedri will be the first player to win the Golden Ball. He gets knocked out the group stage. But Kevin De Bruyne, I've gone for him 12-1. I know price comparison sites. I always have a look at them because you can get a best price of 16-1. But again, I just think he's in the form of his life. 16-1. He's going to be Belgium's best player. If you think Belgium will go far in a tournament, then this is the bet to have, I think.
And okay, should we drum roll? Let's get a little drum roll. Bos, who is this?
Well, we haven't spoken about the Germans much beyond you saying they've got a good, interesting, youthful side, but you think it's going to come too soon, that sort of thing. Let's just touch on who's won this award. 2018, Modric. 2014, Messi. 2010, Diego Forlan. 2006, Zidane. And 2002, Oliver Kahn. So I don't know if there's actually that much of an emerging pattern beyond players that had outstanding tournaments. Should the Germans win the World Cup or at least reach the final, I think Kai Havertz is going to be a massive part of this. He has an ability to produce brilliant moments. He's 66-1. If Germany go far, surely he will be instrumental in it. He's had a crap time at Chelsea recently, if we're honest. He hasn't delivered what we'd expect at Chelsea, but he still has those brilliant moments at key games, Champions League finals, or scoring a worldie. I just think 66-1. If I was having a bet on this, I haven't talked myself into backing him yet, but I was looking for someone at value. And also, I need to cover the Germans somehow in case they win it. So I thought Kai Havertz stood out at a bit of a big price.
And we spoke a lot about responsible gambling today. As responsible gambling czar for this podcast, I say do not put that bet on. That is absolutely throwing money away.
I don't understand why. Right, but Sam, just really quickly, Germany get to the semi-finals. Surely you think he must have been fairly instrumental in them getting there, no?
I don't think he's necessarily going to start. No. So no,
he'll start. I think
I don't have the odds here. So I can't. I'm going to look this up as I'm saying it. If I had to put it on any German, and again, I don't think Germany will get to the semis, get to the final, whatever. It'd be Jamal Musiala. I think he's the one who could really dominate things for that team, and I'm sure he'd probably be a slightly bigger price as well.
Okay,
fair enough.
You've made your argument.
Let's actually look further at the groups individually now, and you can bet on the winners of each group. You can bet on qualifications. Should we? I don't know if to start with Bos. I think we'll end with Bos actually because he's picked a winner of each group in an ACCA. Farley, we'll go for your pick first of all because you've gone for a group winner at a fairly big price for the market and a qualification for one of the groups for a big price too.
Yeah, so we were talking a bit here. We didn't know exactly what this sort of section would be. We're just going to talk about group bets. But for me, I've gone for somebody who I think will win the group that is going to be a shock. Talked about them already, Denmark. I think they have a potential to win this. And at 3-1, I'm certainly going to be getting in on that. And the team I think are going to qualify from the group. We've again talked about Group A a couple of times. Behind the Netherlands, it is a bit sparse. You have Qatar, you've got Senegal, you've got Ecuador. I think Qatar, 9-2. I think it's a bit of a price. I think a lot of us don't really know what we're going to get with Qatar. And also, I've got to be careful because I don't want to get arrested at the airport.
I'll say it for you, Sam. I'll say it for you. They're going to end up potentially getting some assistance, much like we have seen in other World Cups with hosts suddenly getting strange decisions. The Spanish will probably never forgive South Korea for what happened to them in Japan and South Korea back in 2002.
Italy, but...
Sorry, you're right. But they got, I think there was a series, was there not, of slightly strange decisions. But
Yeah.
anyway, I don't think you're a million miles off that potentially there will be some encouragement. I'm not saying corruption, but maybe, just maybe, the home crowd could sway the referee a little bit.
Yeah. Mine is a dark horse for qualification, and that is Canada. Now, they're in Group F. They're in Belgium's group. They've just got some decent players. It's going to be their first World Cup. Jonathan David's a great striker. Kyle Laren's a good striker too. It's all going to pin on Alphonso Davies being fit, definitely. Obviously, he went off injured only a few weeks ago, so there's a very decent chance that he won't be fit. But 3-1, dark horse for qualification. I know we've spoke about dark horse bets. The actual dark horse question came from James the FPL Avocado, who asks us questions every week, and we do appreciate it, James, definitely. If you do have any other questions for the World Cup, make sure you hit us in the comments on Twitter now, because we are live now on Twitter. Bos.
Well, I misunderstood this, and
I don't think you did. I don't think you misunderstood.
I like what you've done. I like it.
I read it as top of the group, A to H. So I've picked every single top of the group and put them into the muggiest acca known to man. So I've gone with Netherlands. We've spoken enough about them. England, we should top that group. You know, whatever people think of us, we should top it. I'm not being arrogant in saying that. I believe we've got a much better team. Argentina, that'd be the one. If they don't top their group, I'd be astounded. France, who I know Sam thinks a bit iffy on, but I think they'll top it. Germany over Spain, that's an absolute coin toss. It's like 10 to 11 each of two when you look at that. Belgium, who I'm a bit lukewarm on at the moment, Belgium. Kevin De Bruyne might be dragging him there, but they should top their group. Brazil, who we actually really need to probably have a bit of a conversation around, because somehow we've sort of circled around the favourites. We'll throw that at the end, maybe a bit on Brazil. And then Uruguay, who are a little bit of value against Portugal. All of those to top their group was around 66-1. It might just be a throwaway bet that should still be live going into the final rounds of each game. And that was sort of my challenge to myself to try and find it.
I like it, though. Topper. Yeah. 66-1 is a good price for that. And again, like you say, it's one of them bets where it'll last until the last game. And I think I'll probably have a crack at it myself too.
I mean, the Netherlands, England, Argentina treble really stands out of all those mentioned as, I think, I don't like to use words like bomb-proof, but I'd feel confident.
Responsible gaming.
I would feel confident that we could be going close to a short price treble winning there. That's probably fair to say. But yeah, I'd be interested.
I can't wait. Add Brazil and Belgium in and make that pretty strong. I'd say there's only three groups where I would be not confident on the winner.
It's interesting, France. Isn't it? There's a real divide, I suppose, between. It feels a bit of a two-tiered World Cup.
Yeah, it does. Quickly, just seeing in the document we have, Clark has messaged us on Twitter asking around Lautaro Martinez. I know we touched upon him before, of Argentina to be top scorer at 33-1. Scores for fun in Serie A, South American qualifying. He scored for fun too. It's a great price. It is a really, really good price. What do you guys think around Martinez quickly?
He's picked a player from the right team, hasn't he? We all seem to agree that Argentina will have a good tournament. You know, you've got one of the best creators of a chance ever seen in football on the pitch. So, yeah, I mean, if he starts every game, I think that's that's a sort of a fair play to Clark. That's the sort of value bet I like. You know, it's really easy to say Messi, isn't it? But Messi's also famed for his ability to create. And, you know, if everyone's drawn to try and defend and mark around Messi, it should leave some space for others within the team to flourish. And, good shout.
Yeah, I like it.
I like it, Boz. Should we move on to the next section?
Oh, yeah, this is my favourite section. So I'm glad that I get to compare it. Specials. Now, this takes the form of many different bets. I've got hundreds, so I'm going to go through these really, really quickly. Memphis Depay, who if you bought the amount of over mentions tonight at like 4.5, you'd be laughing. Him to be the top goal scorer from La Liga is 13-2. And Havertz to be the top goal scorer from the Prem.
No.
25-1. So I've had a little dart, both of them as singles and doubles. The Marketeers final dream, by the way, lads. And I've done a few simulations of it. it could happen. I don't think it will, but I couldn't help it. Surely, a Messi Ronaldo final would just be poetic majesty on our screens. Can you imagine it? The week before Christmas, we get the Christmas present of all time, the two GOATs going at it. And we can finally settle the who's better debate when it ends in a 3-3 draw. Both get hat tricks and it goes down to pen. I don't know what would happen. But anyway, 33-1. That looked a price. I took a look at the card lines as well. Under 220 yellow cards, I think it was 11-8. Last World Cup, there was 219. I don't feasibly think there's a reason we'll see more since that World Cup to now. And 220 was quite high. I don't know if I can draw up the other statistics from it. I've got the goal one in front of me, unfortunately, not the card one. But yeah, I just thought that on my research looked a little bit high over 220. So I'll go for the unders, 220. Right. Sam, you like a name the finalist bet, and you think it's going to be a bit of a Falklands Civil War.
Yeah. Look, you mentioned sort of the destiny of a Messi Ronaldo final. How about the destiny of Messi's 1000th game? He broke, well, not he, his nation broke English hearts previously with their last talismanic icon. And now we're going to see a Jude Bellingham handball to seal. No, I'm joking. But I do think England, Argentina, if they both win their group, and as mentioned, they really should. And if they keep progressing, they are on a collision path to meet in the final. So 28-1, I think Argentina have a very good chance. The bookmakers would agree with that. England, I think, have a very good chance. I know the bookmakers maybe not so quite so keen on that. But I think it'd be a fascinating game. The amount of narratives you'd have around that, just mind-blowing. And I couldn't think of anything I'd love to do more than to beat Argentina to win a World Cup. It would genuinely be the best thing ever. So 28-1, and maybe this might be coming from the heart rather than any sensible betting. But yeah, I love it. I love it.
Well, listen, we could both be half right, at least with the Argentina final shouts. Jake, you've gone for a big price, all action bet. I quite like it. I think it's a bit skinny.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I'm actually not a fan of the specials and the request a bet kind of things and stuff for like World Cups. I always seem to pick 10 of them at £2 each and none of them come anywhere close. And I just think it's a bit stupid for me to do. I mean, the bet I've gone for is 66-1. Again, it probably should be bigger than this, but it's Kane to score 6+ and KDB to assist 5+ at 66-1. Kane's going to score goals. Kane will be our goal scorer at the World Cup. It's clear to see. 6 goals, is it doable? He won the Golden Boot with 6 goals last time, I think. KDB to assist 5. That's purely due to the opponents that they'll face in the groups. And then going forward, he may do even better there. Again, as I say, he's in great form, De Bruyne. So I just think 66-1, that could be the bet. And the other thing I want to say about specials is actual specials that you'll see from bookmakers for each game. Start shopping around now. There's going to be bookies who start to put out specials around your Golden Boot markets, free bets every time one of your players scores and stuff like that. I've already seen one of the big bookmakers have got England to beat Iran at evens as a special this evening. So there's going to be different specials around that. I know by specials you didn't quite mean that, Bos, but that's something definitely to think about. I think.
Yeah, there's definitely value out there. One thing I would say is I've gone the other way. I used to always want to back the over lines for, like, you see tournament corners, for example. Do your homework because the stats are out there. And there's one I'll mention. I'm going to put this one in here and take it out of my best bets. I've got too many best bets in there. Under 164.5 tournament goals. It's 5-6. To give you some sort of idea, I had it in front of me then. There we go. So the last tournament, we saw 169 in Russia. 171 in Brazil was the recent high. But South Africa, just 143. Germany, 147 in 06. 161 in South Korea and Japan in 2002. The trends would suggest that I think we're due a slightly slightly under. And I thought 164 gives you plenty of wriggle room. I think the group stages, you'll probably panic and there'll be loads of goals. Then once we get the quality into the knockouts, much tighter games, I'll be looking at unders a lot more. But yeah, Sam, it's now my second favourite section, actually. So I'll let you take it away.
Yeah, so we talked about the Golden Boot, the top goal scorers. Let's talk about top team scorer. And I think there's some crackers in here. I noticed me and you are agreed on one guy, Bos. But Jake, why don't you start here? Because you got one of them. One of them I'm not so sure on, and another one I think is a real price.
Yeah,
so let's go through those.
We've already spoken around the Germany top goal scorer market. Havertz is favourite at 5-1, joint alongside Leroy Sané. Now, Bayern Munich, I've actually watched a few Bayern Munich games this season because Sky have the rights now, and it's just easy TV to watch on a Saturday when there's no games on. Leroy Sané has been one of their best players, and a Leroy Sané on form is one of the best attacking players in the world, in my eyes. I think he's that good, and going into this World Cup, he's going to be one of their key players. He will start for the country, and he will get a goal at least. 5-1 is it's a great price. And again, that market, the Germany market, is the most open market on there because they just haven't got a recognised striker as far as I'm aware. My second bet is Portugal. Now, Portugal's market is obviously dominated by Cristiano Ronaldo, who is odds. I think he's odds on to.
No, he was 3 to 1.
Oh, is he 5-2 then? 5-2 he was when I saw.
1, yeah.
So I just don't know what frame of mind Ronaldo's going to turn up in. This season, he's been absolutely rubbish in the games I've watched in the Europa League. I nearly said Europa Conference then. Europa League for United against Nicosia and teams like that, where he's just seems to be overdoing it. Obviously, Ronaldo's going to be one of them players who will score, but Rafael Leao at 8-1 is a massive price. Rafael Leao is absolutely unbelievable. What a player. You spoke about them players like Cody Gakpo, Farley, who will become household names. Rafael Leao is going to be one of them players who people in our country especially are going to start thinking, yeah, this guy is a baller. We may even see him in the Premier League in the next year or so. Who knows? Who knows what will happen? But at 8-1, big price, massive price for me.
I'm going to quickly interject with mine. Firstly, I love the Leao shout, but I'm going to interject with mine. I've touched on them both as potential Golden Boot winners, so it's no surprise they're here. Darwin Núñez, 5-2 for Uruguay. I just think it's a fantastic price. They still play Cavani a lot, so there's always the possibility of getting sniped by Cavani, but I just think Núñez this is really primed for him to have a good World Cup. And Cody Gakpo, 11-1 for the Netherlands. Double-digit price. He's not going to be on penalties. That will be Memphis Depay, obviously. But you're looking at a group stage there that realistically they should be scoring a couple of goals in each game, you would think. And yeah, 11-1, good price for me. But Bos, you've got a few here. Get the two obvious ones out of the way, and then let's talk about these slightly more obscure names.
Yeah, so I just like to throw a few darts at these and build some sort of lucky 15, lucky 63, because it's quite a fun bet to follow for the tournament. I used to have an angle of trying to pick out defenders for countries that weren't going to go very far, that tended to get the one goal. It's quite hard, that. I'll kick off with the obvious. So I like Núñez at 5-2. Your shout about Cavani's probably worried me a bit. I don't think 5-2 is necessarily the best value in the world, but I could see him definitely being the one I'd probably want to stick with. I mentioned Havertz. I think he could possibly be an outsider for the Golden Ball, and 5-1 to be Germany's top goal scorer if he ends up starting effectively as the false nine up top, whatever you want to call it. I think that's a big price. Couple of slightly stranger ones. Senegal, obviously Mane is a bit of a doubt. So I tried to have a little look through, and Boulaye Dia is a interesting possible starter. 15-2 to be Senegal's leading scorer. My theory is if he comes in and starts playing well and Senegal progress and he's nicked a couple of goals, it'd be hard for Mane when he's starting in the groups, in the knockout stages, to kind of score enough to get past him. And also, he's not going to get dropped, so he should still be playing. So I just thought he was a bit of value. And there's a chap for Australia who I quite like, called Matthew Leckie. I think this is at least his second World Cup, and he's 31. He's been around the block a bit, and he's very versatile for the Aussies. So he sort of ends up fitting in anywhere, but he can score a goal or two, and he's 8-1 for Australia to be their top goal scorer at the tournament. Now, they're going to get the 3 games, and I think the Aussies will really lean on their more experienced players to play in all of these games. Realistically, their cup final will be the Tunisia tie, and they'll have to hope they'll get something out of the France or Denmark games to progress. But I just think 8-1 for a player who scored goals at international level, is versatile, but does tend to lean towards being further up the pitch, was a bit of value, and there's a special bet I'll mention on him a bit later on.
Nice. Now, quickly, before we get to our best World Cup bets, our overall best bets for the tournament, I'm going to ask you both a question that is completely off the cuff. I'm asking you now, so you've not researched. There's no stats, no nothing. What is your outrageous opinion, outrageous bet, outrageous pick that's going to happen in this World Cup? I'll kick us off first. I think Brazil are going to flop. Brazil won't get out of the groups. They'll have an absolute stinker. There's no reasoning behind it. I just think that it could happen. It will happen. They'll have a little flop. Everyone will be backing them. They're the favourites. What's your outrageous opinion for this World Cup, Farley?
My outrageous opinion is everybody who I've seen on Twitter telling me that they're going to boycott it. They'll be watching. They'll be watching when the knockouts come around. Do you know what, lads? Little sidebar here. What the stuff that's happened for them to get the World Cup is disgusting.
Yeah.
The human rights abuses, the LGBT stuff, it is absolutely disgusting. But it's getting to the point now. I'm actually getting a little bit annoyed of hearing about it. Like, I feel the time is like, we should have been talking about this 10 years ago, 8 years ago, 6 years ago. Should have stopped it from being held at all. Yeah. Doing it now just feels totally borderline pointless. Like, I don't know if that's a particularly fair thing to say, but I think ultimately need to crack on now. Let's keep talking about it during the tournament. I think that's really important that the media is still covering it. But yeah, let's focus on the football and talk about that in like relief of the football as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if you're ready. I don't know if you're ready for mine, Jake. I don't think the football world is.
Oh no, is it going to be like Havertz all over again?
No, I don't think it'll be that bad. I think actually what will happen is we will find having a Winter World Cup not the worst thing in the world. People may even come round to the idea, and I think this World Cup will do one of two things. It will either completely extinguish the idea of moving when we have World Cups, or Arsene Wenger will get his way with more regular World Cups.
Yeah.
And I think the opportunity to see a World Cup every 2 years commercially will make a lot of sense. And I think the opportunity to grow the game and send it to places that wouldn't ever be able to hold a summer World Cup, Qatar's reason for getting it aside, just geographically thinking about places around the world that could then offer themselves as host venues during a Winter World Cup, will be interesting. I think as powerful as the leagues are, I think if fans take to it, Christmas time World Cups in this window, let's be honest, if you were to put a World Cup anywhere else in the calendar, forgetting the actual football schedule, it's a fun time of year, isn't it? Everyone's out and about. It's not like January, February where we're all skint and fed up. There's a lot of office Christmas parties that are revolving around England games now. I think maybe we'll warm to it. And I say that as someone who hates this idea of stopping the season for a World Cup. I feel for players because I don't think it's going to be very fair on them. But money talks, and I would not be shocked if the first thing that's said on the Monday after the final is what a roaring success it's been. FIFA are going to explore from 2035 onwards, 2036 onwards, a regular alteration to the football calendar.
I think there's a good chance of that. And I think the amount of negativity we've heard, I've pretty much heard so much now of it's going to be the worst World Cup ever, that I actually think that's so in people's minds that if the football is even remotely entertaining, I think it's actually going to win people round slightly and say, admittedly, the hosts, I don't think people are going to change their mind on that, and rightly so. But I think people are going to say, look, maybe a Winter World Cup isn't quite that bad. Like, I think there's certainly ways, if they were to do a Winter World Cup again, they could do things a bit better in terms of starting the season a bit earlier, having a larger gap between between league games and the tournament. But yeah, I think there has been that amount of negativity. I do think that people will enjoy it a lot more when it comes round. And I know we've spoke a few times, guys, about how I think a couple of weeks ago you guys weren't really feeling the World Cup at all. But I think just having the league season still ongoing so close to the tournament really hasn't helped that buzz. And I think just through chatting to people and here and there, it seems to only be this last few days that people are really starting to, I'd say middle of last week when it got to, if players get injured now, they are screwed. That's when people started to really pay attention. I think people really getting up for it. But look, all we want a really fun World Cup. Hopefully some good kind of political and social messages can come out of this as well. But also, so just England to win it would be nice, wouldn't it?
I was going to say, if England win it, it will go down as the greatest event since 1966. And I don't think I'll be sober till sort of New Year's Day. But yeah, it'll be some party anyway. I've got the 18th booked off work, ready for the victory parade through London, but we shall see.
All right, World Cup best bet, Jake. Take us away with the final section of the show.
World Cup best bets is the final section of the show. And quickly looking at our picks, no one has actually picked England to win the World Cup as their best bet, surprisingly. You know what? I'll kick us off because it's a bit stupid, let's be honest. Emiliano Martinez Golden Glove as my best bet for the World Cup. Now, Argentina's defense is superb. I think their defense is brilliant. It'll start for them. They've got 5 clean sheets in the last 6 games going into the World Cup, and I think a good defense is going to be what makes Argentina win this World Cup. As much as the hype will be around Messi, I think them being strong at the back will kick them on. And again, 7-1. He's like fourth favourite, I think. There's 3 keepers above him, including Hugo Lloris. So there are massive keepers who will be above him, but 7-1. That's my best bet of the World Cup. Farley, what's your best bet for this World Cup?
Spain, Germany, Group E, straight forecast. Spain to win, Germany to be second, 6-4. I think that's a really good price. And the other thing I just wanted to mention, individual odds aren't up yet for player cards. You know, if you listen to the At Odds pod regularly, we love a cards bet. And I'll tell you something, Rodrigo de Paul, I will be betting yellow card every game. Casemiro de Paul doubles all over the shop, but de Paul is Messi's little bouncer on the field. Yeah, really looking forward to that. Those are my best bets.
Bos, hit us with your best bets now for the World Cup.
I'm just going to actually put one up now. And on the card suggestion, I will be watching every game like a hawk for keeper time wasting. Because unlike the Premier League, I expect you FIFA officials to actually want to not have the spectacle ruined by keepers time wasting. So I'll be very curious to see if keepers get booked for that. My best bet, I'm going to Dutch these two up. Costa Rica 15-2 and Saudi Arabia 9-1. Lowest scoring teams. So you obviously want teams that are fairly average and are not going to get out the group. Saudi Arabia have to play Argentina, who should batter them. But more interestingly, they've got to play Mexico and Poland, who are obviously going to be very tightly battling for that second spot behind Argentina, in my opinion. I think Saudi are going to struggle to break down either of those sides. Mexico can be quite tight. Poland definitely, I think, have got a shot there as well. And Costa Rica, looking at their group, don't think they're going to get much change out of Spain and Germany. It comes down to the Japan game. And again, Japan will probably be with a squeak, potentially, depending on results and the way the fixtures fall. So, yeah, I thought either of those to be lower scoring teams. Dutching the pair gives you a nice little combo price. And, yeah, just to say best of luck to everyone, whatever they're betting. Please add your comments below. And then you can absolutely reign over us when you've picked the Golden Boot winner, when you picked the World Cup winner. Get them in the comments. Let us know what you fancy, because we love to hear from you guys.
We do, definitely. And I think that about wraps it up. I mean, Farley, you're not going to be here now. When are you actually back? When are you back in the country?
Not sure the exact date. I haven't got a return flight, but I will be back at some point. But yeah, look, if you've enjoyed the show, stay tuned. like the At Odds Pod on YouTube, on Spotify, wherever you're listening, and of course our social platforms, the At Odds Pod on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok as well. I think
we do give winners. We do give winners across a
Yes, we
variety of
do.
sports. You'd have got the Paddy Power Gold Cup winner if you'd listened to last week's regular show. We've had some brilliant ACCAs come in, a couple of 14-1 shots. I think there was a 25-1 shot. And we'll always try and dig out a bit of value whilst enjoying ourselves responsibly. But I guess there's always less to say is very best of luck for the World Cup. Come on, England. Come on, Holland. And let's see who's right in 4 weeks' time.
Darwin Núñez. See you later, everyone.
See you later, everyone.